Good evening to everybody. My name is Gosney. I'm the current chair of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. I've been on the Oversight Committee now for about 9 years. I've been with our school bond program since it was a bond program. This is before 1998, because I come from a house of labor. Charles Ramsey was president of the school board at the time. He tried to gather up labor people, a lot of labor people, and would take them from school to show us how bad they were, to try to get us to help pay for the campaigns, to pass the bonds, to rebuild the schools. Okay, we have a $1.6 billion bond program. It's actually $200 million more than that. Charles Ramsey was able to get $200 million in matching funds from the federal and the state government. That was free money. They were at 4 or 5 elementary schools that somebody else had to pay for. It didn't have to come out of our pocket. But what I would like to do tonight, I'm going to talk to you about the bonds and parcel taxes, the state of our schools. I will answer any question that you've got, but I'm going to request, please, is wait till I finish everything, and we'll take all the questions at the end. Okay? Any of you that own your own property, you probably got the same thing I got, property tax bill. A lot of people, you don't even pay attention to the individual items on there. All you look at is that really big number down at the bottom. When I copied this, I made sure I cut that off because I can't afford that kind of stuff. But if you take a look at your property tax bill, you're going to see 8 lines on there that say WCCUSD. Okay, 6 of them are school bonds and 2 of them are parcel taxes. I'm seeing a few people that look like they're like me. We are senior citizens. Okay, on the parcel tax side, take a look, and if it's got an asterisk by it, it doesn't even have to be a school bond. If it's got an asterisk by it, you can call the phone number on here and get a senior citizen exemption. Money back in your pockets. First thing tomorrow morning, call these people. I'm counting 1, 2. I'm counting 3 of them on there. I'm going to call. I know the money I can get. Okay, but you're going to see it's a serious chunk of your property tax bill is going towards our schools. One of the problems that we had is that we had a couple of decades, the 70s and 80s in particular, where we had a lot of nice schools, decent schools, but we decided not to spend money to maintain them. Well, what happens at your own house when you don't paint it for 20 years? What happens when you don't cut the lawn for 20 years? Pretty soon it just starts falling down around you. And now we're paying the price for that. We've got a lot of schools in our school district that are falling down around our kids. I don't have any kids, but I'm born and raised here. I'll probably die here. I can't afford to move. I understood that we need to improve our schools. We're not talking about what they teach inside the classrooms. We're talking about the buildings themselves. Back in 1998, I was telling you about when Mr. Ramsey was taking us to different schools. We went to El Cerrito High School, which was built in 1936. Yeah, it was the oldest one, the school that we still had going at the time. But we were not even allowed to go inside the building because it was so unsafe, and we did not have a legal reason to be in there. Students, the teachers, the staff people, they could all be in there. Parents couldn't even go inside. We had to go out and around the building and look through the windows. That's how bad it was. Then we went to Perry's Elementary School. They didn't have electricity. Didn't really matter though, because they had so many holes in the ceilings, letting all kinds of light. Except the day we visited, it was raining. So all the kids had to just kind of scoot their chairs over. It was like a bring your pet to school day. So many rats running around in there. I bet you they had names for them. By the way, brand new elementary school, Perry's Elementary School, brand new El Cerrito High School. Okay. But we are short. We still got 2 schools left to be built. I'll talk about those in a minute or 2. But we still have about 22 schools that need to be repaired or rebuilt. That's going to need another $1.2 billion. And we've got a choice. We can either let them continue to fall down around our kids, or if a bond measure comes back before the voters, you can pass it. I'm not arguing one way or the other on that. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to explain to you the situation that we have and how the process works. Okay? Just a quick show of hands. Does everybody really understand the difference between a school bond and a school parcel tax? Most people don't. Most people don't. All they know is that if it passes, you're going to be eating alcohol for a couple of weeks because you can't afford it. You had to pay property taxes. So you understand the difference. A parcel tax can be used for people and programs. It pays for teacher salaries and benefits. It pays for school libraries. It pays for sports programs and nurses and such. It cannot be used for the buildings. Now, a school bond is just the opposite. It can only be used for the building. It cannot be used for a property tax. I mean, for teacher salaries and benefits, anything like that. There's a clear line separating the two. So if something shows up on the ballot for a school bond or a school parcel tax, at the very least, read the short description so you understand what it's for. Maybe you don't want to pay for the teachers anymore, but you say, okay, we need a new building. Okay, you're going to go for one, not going to go for the other. Okay, but understand, that's the way it is with anything that's on your ballot. Before you start marking things off, understand what you're marking off. Okay? In the parcel packet that I gave you, take a look through there. We've got a history of the school bonds and school parcel taxes that we've put before the voters over the past 20 years. Okay? And some of them have passed. Some of them passed by a huge amount. 76%, 77%, 72%. Some of them have just gone down in flames. People have been voting more for bonds for the buildings than they have been for the parcel taxes. Okay. No rhyme or reason to that, but that's just the history of the way things have been working on that. Okay. We're just dealing with the school district. When the school district wants to put a bond measure on the ballot, they cannot tax you more than a certain percentage of the total valuation of all the property in the school district. You got to ask yourself, who's doing all the calculating? That's somebody else's problem, and Martinez. Okay? But I think it's something like the total indebtedness cannot be more than 4%. Don't hold me to that number because when you're senior citizen time, I lose track of some of these numbers. Right? But the school district can petition the state for what they call a debt waiver limit. They can petition to go above that. Every school district does it. We have done it every time. So we're paying close to 5%, 5.1%, something like that. But it's still a relatively small amount until you start adding up all 6 of them on their property taxes. And you say, damn, a lot of money. Okay. But there is that debt waiver limit. Okay. But if a bond measure shows up on the ballot, it's incumbent upon you as voters, as responsible citizens of this community. Okay. You need to read the language. What is the money going to be spent for? First of all, how much is the bond? But also take a look at how much is the payback. What's the terms? Just like if you're a homeowner, okay, typically your mortgage is a 30-year mortgage. If you're smart, really smart, you're going to pay that off in 20 years or 15 years. It's going to save you a tremendous amount of money because most of what you're paying for this first 10 or 15 years is interest. Okay, but if you're really desperate, you're going to stretch that out to a 40-year payback. That means that if you're going to get a $100 million bond, you're going to end up paying about $400 million because of all that interest. By the way, the new football stadium at UC Berkeley, they went with a 100-year payback. Somebody should have gone to jail on that one. I'm sorry. They're paying interest forever on that. But that's for the good students of UC Berkeley to worry about. Okay? But make sure that you know where the money is going to go. Look at the language that's required, that they put in language on the bond measure on the ballot. Okay, because here, I bet you don't care about any of these schools outside of your neighborhood. Yes, we really do care about Lake Elementary, I care about Fairmede, but you want the money to be spent here. Okay, and if you don't like the idea that your tax dollars are going to be going to Hercules or Kensington or any place outside of your neighborhood, then don't vote for it. Right? But, and make sure you understand what the money is going to be going for. Not just where it's going to be going, but what it's going to be going for. They used to be very vague on the ballot measures. You know, repair buildings, add new libraries, new sports complexes. That doesn't mean anything. Okay? You want them to say, going to rebuild Highland Elementary School, or you're going to repair Highland Elementary School. Make sure you read that on there. Be an informed voter. In 2000, the good people of California had a proposition, just like we always do. We had about 20, 30 propositions on our ballot. One of them was what was called Proposition 39. Oh, sorry, we'll backtrack. For a parcel tax, you want to pass it, it requires a 2/3 majority to pass. 2/3 of the people in the state have to vote to tax themselves. That is a tough sell, really a tough sell, to get that threshold. And for a school bond, it was even worse. So in 2000, we passed Proposition 39, which for school bonds, it lowered it from 2/3 down to 55%. Still kind of tough, but more manageable. The bad part about Prop 39, though, it dramatically increased the rights of charter schools. It said, it made it part of the law. It said that charter schools are public schools. It guaranteed that charter schools will get the same state funding per student that traditional public schools get. Okay? Whether you're for charter schools or against charter schools, doesn't really matter. That's not the issue. Okay? But let's understand this is what made this happen. But it also says you're going to have a Prop 39 bond measure. You will have a Citizens Bond Oversight Committee to look over the collective shoulders of our school board and the staff to make sure that they are spending the money wisely, they're following the law, and they're doing what it said in the ballot measure. I guarantee you, the school board and the staff do not want anybody looking over their shoulder. None of us do we? You know, I want to do whatever I feel like. I'll be danged if you're going to look over my shoulder and say, well, you can't do that. No. 9 years I've been on the Bond Oversight Committee, and I've not found hardly anybody in staff and the school boards and any of them that said, welcome into my house. No, it's just the opposite. You still here? I thought those guys that we hired took care of it. Yeah. Bottom line is, it's part of the checks and balances system. If our school district does not want that oversight, simple solution. Don't go with a Prop 39 bond at 55%. Go with the 2/3 one. If you think your project is so good that you've got the support of the people, and you're going to get 2/3 of them vote for you, put that on there. Then you don't have to worry about the citizens' oversight. Okay? About 4 years ago, we had a grand jury investigation of our bond program. There was a lot of things in there that were valid, but there was a lot of bull that was in there. We were able to debunk a lot of it, but it made the school district look very bad in the community's eyes. If we got an editorial guy out of the West County Times, what do they call it, East County Times, Contra Costa Times, Dan Bornstein, who hates West County. He hates taxes, and he hates our school district. And if he can find anything wrong with something we're doing, he's going to write about it. And he's going to have a real good time doing it. He's got more ink than we have. If I want to respond to that, I'm limited to 175 words. Not very much. Okay? Nobody reads the daily literacy editors as compared to the big editorial comment. So we don't want anybody coming into our house and saying, you did something wrong. All right? In 2015, we spent, the school board took $1 million of your money and paid for a forensic audit of the bond program. What angered me on that is they borrow the money. Okay, that was $1.4 million in interest for that. Plus staff times, legal fees, and everything. It was all together about $3.2 million for that forensic audit. It found a lot of problems that we had, but it was a very flawed audit at the same time. Because they ran out of money before they could really start talking to the people that had the answers. But still people are looking at that 1,576-page audit and using it as a Bible. This is what we need to do to correct the problem. Okay? Every year there is a financial audit of our bond program, and there is a performance audit. Financial audit is pretty straightforward. It just talks about numbers. Okay? If you had a bill for $100, did you have a check for $100 to pay it off? Pretty straightforward. Performance audit is completely different. They don't look at the numbers. They look at how did the district do? Did they do what they were supposed to do? Did they do it expeditiously? Did they do it wisely? Did they waste a lot of your money, our money, on that? And that's, again, part of my job is on the Bond Oversight Committee, to hold their feet to the fire to make sure that they aren't wasting our money. As those of us that are getting a bit long in the tooth, as they say, we're going to be paying for these for the rest of our life. And I don't have any guarantee after we die, I have no guarantee that we're still not going to have to pay for it. I hate to get to the pearly gates and have St. Peter say, well, you still owe some money on this bond measure. So we got a special place for you until you pay it off. Don't want that. Let's talk a little bit about charters. Again, it's not pro or con on charters themselves. This is an explanation about charters and how bond money and parcel tax money affects them. State law says that charter schools are public schools. They have what they call ADA. It's a yearly amount of money that the state pays each school for every student that shows up every day. So when you get these students that have a mass walkout, a protest, I mean, it doesn't matter what the cause is. When they step off campus, the state says we're not paying you for that day. And you start multiplying that by 28,000 students in our school district. It's a bunch of bucks. So that's why we encourage them. Can you do your protest on campus? Because as long as you're here, we still get the money. Okay, but the charter schools are getting much of that. Right now, you've got about 6,000 of our students in the community that are attending charter schools. In Contra Costa County, there are 24 charter schools. Okay. And, 23 charter schools in Contra Costa County. And 14 of them are in West Contra Costa County. And 11 of them are in Richmond. Why are we so special? Because you don't know about charter schools and you can't drive around anywhere without getting a charter school here. Okay? But they are public schools, so they're getting some of that state money. Many people are saying, well, if you're going to get our money, we want to hold your feet to the fire the same as we hold our traditional schools. Open up your books. Make sure your meetings are public. Follow the Brown Act. Things like that. They're having a difficult time with that. Okay? I love this. They don't have a board of education. They have a board of directors. They don't have a superintendent. They have a CEO. It's being run as a business. It's like the students are a product that they're churning out. I have no problem with that. Okay? But when a charter school tries to get their charter, there are 3 ways to do it. Their first course of action is to file their paperwork with the local school district, WCCUSD. There are 16 criteria that they must meet. And if they meet these 16 criteria, our school district has no option other than to issue the charter. They can't weigh in whether it's of value to the community or how much is taken out for funding or anything like that. Has no bearing. If they meet those 16 criteria, they have to get it. Okay? Some do, some don't. But those that don't, then they file their paperwork with the county board of education. It's almost like with the county board of education that the forms they have to fill out are already pre-printed with a big red approved on them. But every now and then, the county will reject one. So then they go to the state of Sacramento. And they approve all of them, pretty much. If the school district here issues the charter, then we have control over how they do their business. And it's very general control. But if it's issued by the county or the state, we have zero control over it. Most of your schools here, I'm not going to say it, all of your schools, if you're seeing around here, are not charged to our school district. The county is charged to the county. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. Control over the charter schools is important, and their construction. Now, you see the massive new Making Waves Academy. Beautiful school, isn't it? I mean, it really is beautiful. But all of these schools are not being built as schools. They're being built as office buildings. So if the charter school moves, or if the charter school fails, and they do fail from time to time, then they can convert it to an office building, lease it out again. But Making Waves is a good example. It really is a beautiful school. Okay? But if you get rid of the fancy paint job on there, if you get rid of the fancy scroll work on the gates, you get rid of the nice landscaping and look at it, they're just boxes. There's nothing eye-appealing about it. Go look at the brand new Pinole Valley High School that just opened up a couple weeks ago. It's an attractive looking school. Okay, but it costs a lot more. Making Waves Academy costs $32 million. Pinole Valley High School costs $217 million. It's a lot of money. But good people in Pinole, if you ask them, they deserve it. With charter schools, there can be state intervention. We wish that there was more state intervention. There have been a number of issues that have come before the state legislature that have been sent over to the governor for his signature. Some of them he's agreed with and signed, some of them not. In particular, like we were saying before, oversight of their finances. If they're using our money, public funds, we should have the same right to look at their finances the same we do at WCCUSD. Make sure that they're not throwing our money away. I mean, you take a look at Aid Method, which has 6 schools, 3 in Richmond and 3 in Oakland. Okay, a total of about 1,200 students. And their CEO makes almost $450,000 a year. Compared to our superintendent, which gets about $235,000 for 28,000 students. And of course, the Aid Method CEO, times get hard, he can always rely on his wife's salary, because she's the second command there at $365,000 a year. That's your money, my money. You're interrupting? Or would you, okay, this way till after the... Okay. But the effect of the charter schools on our bonds and parcel taxes. Okay, the last parcel tax, we needed help on the campaign. I say we, the school district, not me. Okay, needed help on the campaign because it costs $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 to launch a campaign for a parcel tax or a bond. Where's that money going to come from? It can't come from you as people. It can't come from the public funds. It has to come from outside people. Now, nobody wants to contribute to something like that, or at least a parcel tax. So they had to go to the charter schools. You need to help us out on that. Well, part of the deal was they had to give some of the parcel tax to the charter schools. And right now, our school district is talking about possibly putting a bond measure and or a parcel tax on the ballot next November next year. And the big question is, if it's a bond, will we have to share the money with the charter schools? This question has to be answered. I don't have an answer for it on that. But because it's public money, I'm betting we do have to share it. Okay? But if you go over the handout here, it shows the time schedule for the bonds and parcel taxes. Right now, what they're doing, they voted, I didn't even vote, they just kind of nodded their heads. They're going to be going and doing telephone polling sometime very soon to feel out in the public, what do you think about a parcel tax? What do you think about a bond? Will you support it? Because it doesn't do anybody any good. If you don't get the support in the polls, if you don't get the support, you're not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on it when you get the little chance it's going to pass. But in particular, I'll find the page. At the bottom of the page, it says, page 7, the lower right, it says election costs. Things don't just show up on the ballot on their own. Somebody has to pay just to put them on the ballot. Okay? And you got a few numbers here, I won't go over them all. Tremendous amount of money. If it's a March election next year with a primary, anywhere from $250,000 to $385,000 just to put it on the ballot. Okay, because that's a much smaller election. But the general election in November, it may only cost about $128,000 to put it on the ballot. Okay. If you're smart, you all are, I'm looking in your eyes, you want to know where's the money going. Okay? In this packet, take a look at the very last page. It's actually 2 pages. This is what we call report number 2. Report number 2, this is the latest version of it. It will tell you where all the money is gone. Each school by school, they're broken down into categories by elementary schools, middle schools, and such like that. So you can see the kind of money that money has been spent. I've had to have serious arguments with some of our Richmond City Council members and some of our community leaders saying, El Cerrito's gotten all the money, Pinola's gotten all the money, Hercules has gotten all the money, nothing has gone to Richmond. That's why I love to throw this in front of them. Because by my calculation, it's about $650 million has gone for the schools in Richmond so far. And El Cerrito High School and Coramoso Middle School, both of them in El Cerrito, 60% of the students live in Richmond. That's another couple $100 million. So I don't want them to say we're not spending enough, or we're not spending money in Richmond. Never enough. Keep in mind, I live in Richmond. I have no sympathy for the people of Pinola, Hercules, or even El Cerrito. I want to take care of my own. Okay? But, yeah. We have a book. Okay? If you're interested, I can give you a link for that book. Come up and talk to me afterwards. It's called the Facilities Master Plan. A couple of years ago, we hired a group of people. They went all over the district. They talked to teachers, to administrators, to parents, to students at every one of our schools. Not a meeting, multiple meetings. Total of about 300 meetings across our district. Tell us about the school. What's wrong with it? I'm talking about the education there. Tell us about the buildings. Tell us about the site. And what they did is they gathered all of this data, and then they assigned a ranking to each one of the schools to determine, which school, if we've got a limited amount of money, which schools should be on the top of the list that need to be done, which one can wait until we got a lot more money. Well, the remaining money that we have left in our bond program, there are only 2 schools that are slated to be rebuilt. Woodrow Wilson, which is in East Richmond, and they've already torn it down, and they had ribbon cutting, or groundbreaking, I should say, 2 weeks ago, and they're doing all kinds of work. Hopefully, by this time next year, they'll have the kids moved in there. The second school is Lake Elementary School, over by Giant Road. Those are the only 2 schools. Number 3 on the list is Steege Elementary. It's on the south side of Kennedy High School. Number 4 is one you're interested in, Highland. Okay? You look at the 2 pages right before the last page here, and I pulled out the 4-page section about Highland Elementary School from the Facilities Master Plan. Some of you might need a magnifying glass to read some of the text there. I didn't draft this. But it's good valuable information. It tells you when the school was built. It did. 1958. That's on the second page. Where it says prioritization criteria scoring. I think the 4th line down says age. It was built in 1958. That's newer than some schools, older than others. But anyway, this is good information. Kind of the last handout that I gave you was an aerial map of Harmon Knolls. Because what the plan is, if they're going to tear down and build a new Highland, they were talking about talking about, nothing's been decided, building it at the site for Harmon Knolls. One of the reasons for that is if they rebuilt it at the existing site, they would have to relocate the students. That means spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on portables for 2 years. Okay? You had over 100 portables that they had paid for at Pinole Valley High School. At Woodrow Wilson, and they moved them over to the old Korematsu site, portable site on Mosier. Yeah. So they're going to be going to school in portables for a couple of years. Those portables aren't free. They come at a very, very hefty price. But if you're able to build a new school at the old Harmon Knolls site, the kids can stay in their current school while they're doing the building. And you don't have to worry about dust all over the place and noise getting in the way of the kids and stuff like that. It can save us an awful lot, which means they can spend more money on the new school. Okay? Now, I've been talking for a while, and that's too much talking. So I want to offer an opportunity for anybody to have questions. I know that you had a question. She had questions she wanted to interrupt earlier. No. Okay, so the question, I'm repeating the questions because we're recording, people can't be here, and they can't always hear on that. The question is, if students attending charter schools, do they have to pay to attend there? Yeah, they have to pay nothing. It's against the law. You can't make, well, they may have uniforms. Some of our traditional public schools may have uniforms too. There's good reasons for that. Sometimes they think it builds the street core, it eliminates the gang aspect, all kinds of stuff. No, they don't have to pay anything at all because it is a traditional, it is a public school. Now that is not the same as a private school. Private school gets no money from the state at all. Okay? They do charge the kids and the parents.
Do they have to qualify by special grades or something?
They're not supposed to be like that at all. It is supposed to be purely by lottery. Although they do weight your application if you've got a brother or sister that's already attended there. So that way families can be there. It makes it easier for parents to drop them off. Kids, that kind of thing. Okay. You had to
I have 2 questions now.
It's okay, one at a time.
Yours is, they used to test students to see if they were learning. Is that something that's still being done in schools? And do they also apply to charter schools?
Okay, we used to have what's called an exit exam. Okay? I'm a big fan of the exit exam. Let me give you a little back history. I come from House of Labor, 49 years with plumbers and steamfitters union. Our apprenticeship program is a 5-year program. We spend about $50,000 a year per apprentice for 5 years. That's $250,000 to train them. Doesn't cost them anything at all. So you can imagine, we want these apprentices to be able to add and subtract, to be able to read and write. Kind of makes me common sense. And just to fill out the application, you have to be minimum 18 years of age, state law, construction, and you have to have a high school diploma or a GED. And that high school diploma, when they had the exit exam, you had 13 years, after 13 years of going to public schools, you had 6 opportunities to validate that you had passed 10th grade mathematics. Okay? I'm sorry, and even those applicants that had the high school diploma, the average score on our math, which was just arithmetic, by the way, arithmetic, not mathematics, 8th grade arithmetic, the average score was 37%. So even the exit exam wasn't as good as we thought. But a few years ago, a lot of people were saying that the exit exam was unfair, that some of the students just couldn't pass it. We even had a school board member that insisted that the English language part be given in Spanish. So wait a minute, we're testing your proficiency in English, so why are we giving it to you in Spanish? But, okay, anyway, Governor Brown outlawed, not only did he outlaw the exit exam, he went back to the people that could not pass it, gave them their high school diplomas. But even when we had the charter schools, it was like that. So we have other questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you to touch on district elections and what the difference is going to be next election cycle.
Okay, I'll do that as soon as I answer her question. Because I don't have her hand full.
I was told, I work for the school district.
Okay.
I was told that the children have to have a certain GPA to get into a charter school.
Yeah.
That's not correct. They don't have anything in writing that says that. I'm not saying that it's not a little bit of... I don't want to point my fingers on that because somebody's attorney might be on the road and get me in trouble. In writing, no.
So you're saying a charter school is similar to a public school?
Similar in the fact that they get the same state funds and the way you get in. Well, you have more applicants for the charter school than you have spots. And so they do it by lottery. Okay, and so some kids are not going to get picked. That's just the way it is. But the same thing with some of our neighborhood schools. They're more popular. Some of the kids got to go, they get a school right across the street. You can't go there. I couldn't figure that out. I mean, for the longest time, this has changed now, but the kids living directly across the street from Kennedy High School, they were in the Oak Street High School district. I mean, I can't go across the street. I had to take 3 buses to Oak Street High School. That just didn't make sense to me. But they didn't ask my opinion. Okay. Ardo has asked me to touch on district elections. Okay. You all heard the phrase ambulance chaser? That's attorneys that chase after ambulance, give them the cards, and you look, well, I'll have to file a suit for you. And you got different versions of that these days. Okay, you got an attorney group down in Santa Monica that has made tens of millions, many tens of millions, by going to cities and school districts up and down the state and saying, you've got an ethnic disparity here, that you're not electing enough people of a particular color in here. But if you have district elections, you can carve out and have a black district, you can have a brown district, you can have a pink district. Okay, and that way we're going to have diversity on your city council or school board. Okay, now these attorneys, there's also an attorney called Scott Rafferty, who's out in Walnut Creek. He's been trying to make a killing out of that. Beginning of last year, there's a letter. It's usually about 25 pages. Technically it's called a demand letter. It's also known as a threat letter. Okay? He will send it out, and as soon as they receive it, the clock starts. They've got 45 days to agree to have district elections, or he will file a lawsuit. And because the law was written so poorly drafted language on there, it's been almost impossible for anybody to win. And if they challenge him, they have to, if they lose or they settle, they have to pay his attorney fees. And since he's his own attorney, it goes in his pocket. But I said, beginning of last year, he hit Martinez, Concord, Antioch, and Martinez School District. The first 6 weeks, he was able to charge $30,000 a letter. That's what the courts allow. So he made $120,000 just for sending out 4 letters. And then he came to West Montgomery Unified School District. Okay? And we said no. We think that we're diverse already. We think you're mistaken on that. Yeah. It took a long time. But the law says you have to have a minimum of 5 public meetings. My personal feeling is that our school district did a poor job of setting up those meetings. One of the meetings, for instance, was on the same night as 2 other district meetings. And you can't be in 3 places at the same time. I can't at least. When I was younger, maybe I could be in 2, but not 3. Okay, but it's kind of funny. No meetings in Hercules, up in Hall, or Elsfreda, or Santa Barbara, or Kensington. It was just one little area. Well, no, they came up with their map. You love the way that this map is drawn. It started out in the Richmond Marina. Richmond Marina, and it went over to Point Richmond, and then it went right up the canal or park or the parkway to North Richmond, Parchester Village, the golf course estates, 2/3 of Montalvo Manor, this area, parts of it, scooting across to parts of Knoll and Carriage Hills. I don't know if you've ever gone from the far end of Carriage Hills to the far end of Point Richmond. It takes about 30-35 minutes just to drive there. You think the people of the Marina and Carriage Hills and Montalvo Manor all have the same issues? It was just, made me so angry that they had that. But then they go to the judge, and the judge, because I got myself, they took this to the County Board of Education to get their stamp of approval. And the county, they said, you did a terrible job on these public meetings. Do it again. Okay, this time, they had 3 meetings. One of them was at Stage for all the black community. Another one was at Riverside for the Latino community. And the third was right in the middle of Wednesday morning at the Latina Center on Barrett Avenue for the Latino women. And it was packed, 35, 40 people. What was it? Forgot the translators. Now, I will be the first to tell you, I do not speak Spanish for the day, but I can tell what these ladies were pissed. Okay, but they came up with this map. Finally, that it was approved. It was a terrible map, in my opinion. And they take it to the judge, and then the judge sat down with the attorney and allowed him to redraw it. I live in East Richmond, between San Pablo and the freeway, right off of McBride. I am in the El Cerrito district. If I had kids, they would be attending Helms Middle School. They would be attending Woodrow Wilson Elementary School. They would be attending Richmond High School. But my representative will be representing El Cerrito. But you go 2 blocks to the northwest of me, that's another district. You go 2 blocks to the east of me, that's another district. And you go about 2.5 blocks to the southwest of me, that's another district. So in my own, neighborhood, big as this room, there are 4 different districts. The only people not representing us is the Lone Hercules. And that's fair, that's right. But because we have the district elections now, I'm sorry, take another step back. By law, they're required to use the latest census data. Census is every 10 years. So the data that we're using is from 2010. You couldn't wait until the next year's census comes out. And here's an example of this. We got the letter, the City of Richmond City Council got this letter a week and a half ago, demanding that we do this. Okay? And I get voter registration data. I'm involved in that. So I get a lot of that data. Okay? Just on my laptop, the hard drive, I've got the voter registration data from 2014. That's 5 years ago. We're not talking all the way back to 2010. I've got that on another hard drive. But the difference between 2014 and now, we've had a 26% increase in the registered voters in the City of Richmond in those 5 years. We've had 3% increase in registered voters for African Americans and 60% for Latinos. Now, that's just in the past 5 years. What do you think it was 4 years earlier? And that's the data that we have to use. Okay? It means that after the 2020 census comes out, we've got to do the whole process all over again. We've got to spend a couple $100,000. In my mind, that's not a big box of cash that Superintendent Duffy has. Anything he wants to spend it on. That means it's going to take a couple $100,000 out of the classrooms, out of the teachers' pay, closing sports programs and nurses and libraries if we still have to open. Okay? All he's saying, he stands on his soapbox and says, ethnic diversity. No, what he's saying is, where's my money? Give me my money. I said, with our school district, as attorney fees, we had to pay him $318,000. Money out of the classrooms. Okay? To get, well, can't use that language because I'm in a church and I'm under camera. Okay? But because of this, we stagger the election of our school board members. So you elect 3 in 1 year, and 2 years later you elect 2 others. Well, next year, all 5 will be up for election. And it's already been determined, I can't remember what district it is, but 3 of them will be for, or 3 of them will be for like a 2-year term, and 2 of them will be for a 4-year term, or vice versa. It'll be staggered, but there will be secondly no incumbents. But we have a Latino district, we have a black, we actually have 2 black districts. So with the city of Richmond, I just went and gathered data year by year of all of our city council members dating back to 1992, it's over 25 years, and what neighborhood they lived in, what ethnicity. And this is not me talking, this is just hypothetical. Right now, we need to have a minimum of 2 more white districts in the city of Richmond, so we can have a minimum of 3 white people on the Richmond City Council if you want to follow his formula. That sound fair to you? That sound right to you? Not to me. I mean, I always have a problem. When I look at the list of candidates on the ballot, I don't ask what color is their skin, because it doesn't really matter to me. Because I'm betting that you as a Latina, that you don't think exactly the same as every Latina. And you as an African American, you don't think the same as every other African American. Maybe, and I even pointed out that with Mr. Phillips, one of our school board members, when he got elected, okay, I got up there and made this point at the school board meeting. I said, I'm a race traitor. I'm a white person and I voted for black men. You've got about 12,500 registered voters in our school district. Mr. Phillips got 28,000 votes. So somebody other than black people voted for him. So it kind of shoots his argument down the toilet, doesn't it? And it says that black people can vote only for black people, white people for white. No. Maybe we're going to look at the individual candidate. I'm going to look and see how do you stand on the issues compared to her. And that's how I'm going to make my decision. I think the rest of you are doing the same thing. But we're stuck with these district elections. They're going to have an impact on us. And so you are going to have a school board member that representing this area and the larger part of San Paulo. Okay. And if somebody actually wants to see the maps, come back with me after this meeting and I'll give you my card. I'll send you a copy of the map. All right. Anyway, it's not good times when it comes to that.
Is that for school board only or city council?
Okay, the school board is a done deal. That's already been decided by the judge. Okay, the Richmond City Council has been, the letter was sent on September 11th. We've got until, the 45-day clock doesn't start until we receive it. It's certified, so there's a signature on there. So I'm going to say October 17th. We have to the City Council has to agree to go along with district elections, or he will file a lawsuit. Okay. And there's a lot of arguments about the value of district elections. Electing somebody from your community to represent you. But this has nothing to do with this. It's saying, we're going to draw these lines based on the color of your skin. I lose track of time again at the senior ice thing. I'm going to say at least 30 years ago. There was an incident in Atlanta, Georgia. Big city. Had 11 congressional districts in Atlanta. But the lines were drawn in such, by the way, Atlanta is largely black. The lines were drawn so there was no way in the world a black person could get elected to Congress. That's what the Supreme Court said too. No, you guys, get out your eraser and draw it. Try this again. I said, but if you start drawing lines based on race, how is that not discriminatory? The same thing as what's happening in Atlanta, where making sure that only white people would get elected. I mean, if you're the best qualified candidate for this office, you should get elected. But if you have to give in the Latino district, no, they're not going to elect you because of the color of your skin.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it makes it a lot easier for these privatizers and wealthy folks to put somebody in a district like our neighborhood, buy a house for them, and then have them run on pay for their campaign. And that's pretty much the way we see it.
And he's right about that. And we've talked about this with a lot of other business organizations, with labor unions, who typically support candidates. It can be a lot easier because I don't have to buy 7 positions. I can only buy 3 positions. That means I don't have to spend nearly as much money. And if, let's say this area, you only got one person that's interested in running. The person who's done a box of rocks. But they were able to fill out that application form, get on the ballot. Now you're stuck with that person. Okay? I don't think that's the way that our community should be run, but that's just me. So you educate that.
What was the name of the lawyer that's doing it?
Scott Rafferty. Okay? I love this. Look at it. You do some research. I've done a lot of research on the guys. I don't like him. Okay? He says he's representing an organization called BAVRI, B-A-V-R-I, Bay Area Voting Rights Initiative. Do your research on BAVRI. There are no meetings. There's no website. It's just him.
What's his name again?
Scott Rafferty, A-R-A-F-F-E-R-T-Y. Okay? Oh, I love this. I'm sorry, getting off the school district, but the letter he just sent to the city, it's 26 pages long. He's got like 5 or 6 pages talking about the inequities that we've had in California. He talks about how they kept Latinos off the city council in Los Angeles in 1842. Let's wait a minute. Don't complain to us, complain to Mexico, because it was 6 years before we beat them in the war and took California. He wrote about how Governor Hiram Johnson did, I can't remember what he did. It was a bad thing in 1914. Well, what has that got to do with Richmond today?
Well, what's the solution?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know. I'm going to fight what he's trying to do with Richmond City Council. I'm going to fight that left and right as much as I can. It may be a losing battle, but sometimes you've got to stand up and say, this is wrong. You know, instead of just crawling in the corner and saying nothing we can do. Okay. As far as our school district, okay, that's a done deal. So all that we can do, whoever's going to run for El Cerrito, or whoever's going to run for Hercules, of course, attend the candidate forums so you have at least some idea who they are. But pay particular attention to the people that will be running in your district. And start looking at people right now. Who do you think would serve on that board and serve the needs of this community? Start talking to them, cultivate them. You know? Convince her that you should run. Because it's a very well-paying job. You get paid almost $800 a month. And you only get to put in about 20 or 30 hours a week. But I mean, it's incumbent upon all of us to find the kind of people we want to represent us in the future, isn't it? Okay. You have more questions?
Yes, back to the asterisk on the property tax.
Okay.
Is that, how long has that been available?
A gazillion years?
So is it retroactive?
No. What world you live in? Yes. No, it's but a lot of people I know have complained they haven't got their property tax bills. I didn't get mine. I should have gotten it a couple weeks ago. This afternoon I went online to pull it up. It's easy to get a hold of, but I mean, I knew that I was eligible for some of these things. I didn't know there were 3 of them, so I'm going to make some phone calls tomorrow morning, get my share. Because I got a $69 item, a $5 item, and a $12 item. That's not a whole lot, but better be in my pocket than somebody else's. And I'm sure you're all thinking the same way. Sorry, Carmen, you have to wait a few years. Okay. Yeah, I know Arthur wants to end this meeting, but any other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay. If you have personal questions with it, or you want information, or you want links to that facilities master plan or something like that, come and see me afterwards. I'll give you a look at it. Yes, sir.
One thing, Congressman DeSaligny is going to be at the end of school next Tuesday, I believe. So that might be a chance to go up there and stump against this crap.
I thought it was a Saturday.
Is it Saturday? I don't
No,
know.
no,
It's Tuesday. It's next week.
I didn't think it was Tuesday. But I mean, I own an online newspaper, and I published the thing on there, because that's October 1st.
3rd. He's gonna be there on the 3rd. What day is
Thursday,
that?
Thursday.
3rd is a Thursday.
Okay,
What time
That's
do you
better.
know what time it is?
5:30 to whatever. Or is it 6:30? I don't have the ad, I just
No.
heard about it today.
I've got it on my phone here, so, yeah. And I agree with that, Eddie. Of course, his main focus, you can talk to him about anything, don't get me wrong. His main focus is impeachment. That's what that meeting is about. An update to let you know what that's about. But you've got the opportunity to ask questions. I'm sorry, for anybody that has not gone to a meeting for a congressional person like this, you will have to submit your questions in writing. And what they will try to do is try to group questions that are similar. So if you ask, is the sky blue, and you ask, what shade is the sky blue, that's kind of wasting people's time. That might end in one question. But they don't want the individuals to get up and ask the questions because there's always a story to tell. I'll tell you about my neighbor down the street. I had this problem, and 20 minutes later, is there a question there? Oh, I forgot. No. So they try to streamline things to get as much going on. But if you submit your question in writing, even if they don't address it that night, they will get back to you on it. Okay? So don't hesitate to go. Don't hesitate to put down your question. You got the question.
No. The Richmond Town Hall meeting is Thursday, October the 3rd, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at De Anza High School, multi-purpose room.
Thank you very much. Don't listen to him. He's sitting in the wrong date. Yeah, I didn't think it was Tuesday because that's the Richmond City Council night. My good friend Marcus told me he would do that today.
Well, we'd like to thank Don Gosney for coming.